Williams, if you all would like to say anything by way of introduction. I know we've had one discussion already, but you're certainly welcome to kick us off.
President, you need a motion and a second on the floor.
Is there a motion?
So I'm go ahead, Director Williams. I'm sorry.
No, go right ahead, Mike. It's fine.
So I move approval of the resolution.
Okay, is there a second?
I second it. Yes, I second.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So let's have a board discussion. I see your hand, Director Thompson.
Yeah, I would like to make a friendly amendment, if I might, please.
Wait. I appreciate you wanting to go with a friendly amendment, but I think what Mike did not tell you is that this amendment is, this resolution is the way it is. Either we're just going to vote for it all, because what happens is all the amendments will water down what the original intent is. And so we just can't actually start chipping away at it, and then it has no real meaning at all. I appreciate it, Director Thompson, but I think we really have to just stay true to the original intent of the amendment, and just either just go with all of it or go with none of it. You've had over 100+ comments, and now after the comments, you're going to undercut the people who ask you to pass the amendment as is, and I cannot allow that to happen. But before we do, I'm sorry to jump in. I just have to go ahead and make sure we understand where everybody is. Sam, you were elected to bring in racial justice and equity lens to D1 leadership. This is your chance, more than a campaign promise, to actually follow through. You know, Black parents and allies, believe that you followed what you said. And so now it's time for you to show that you believe that Black lives is more than just a slogan, Sam. Amy, you have also you've called for more equitable district, but you've been very hesitant to be bold in how you get there. Now is your time to actually trust Black students and families and educators. Gary, you've had many times that you've talked about how much you appreciate Dr. Marcus Foster, how he inspired you and became an educator for so many years ago, and that this time is now, and to end disproportionate harm to Black students. This is your time to live up to that call of what Dr. Foster has called the time is now. Shante, this is the work that's already been happening. This work has been required by the state for us to do. The failure to do this is not an option. To do it now in partnership is the way that we're trying to move. We really want to work with you. We want Black parents' voices to be heard. We want Black leaders to be part of this community-driven effort. And this is not the end. This is just the beginning. And it doesn't take the amount of resources that you may think it does. It really is about a reallocation of our intention. And our intention is to really put the spotlight on Black students. Cliff, you made a lifetime commitment to educate children. And you know that it's a comprehensive, co-created plan that is exactly the right thing to do to close the opportunity gap, and including the focus on literacy. This is our vehicle for success. So I'm asking you to just join with the Black parents and the students and the fellow educators and our leaders in supporting this. Let's not try to cut it down to be a meaningless resolution and then walk away thinking you're feeling good. This is a referendum on the board. This is a referendum on the board. This is about us. This is about when you talk to your next Black friend, to the next Black staff member, to the next Black student, to the next Black family member, you're going to smile at them and say, how are you doing? But what we will know is that we've actually said your child is not worth investing in. We cannot play these games anymore. We really have to stand up to this, what our values are. This vote is a vote on our values, right? This is an institution that needs to change. We need to pivot it into the direction of social justice, social equity. And so this is a vote to do that. This is a humongous, this is an amazing vote. Everyone is watching us. Now it's time to do right. We sit up here every meeting, talk about healing. We talk about Native acknowledgement. This is our time to actually show our actions. This is our time to build trust with the community. This is our time to say, you matter in this community. This is our time. We cannot undercut it anymore. We have to stand with it, work with it, and make the necessary adjustments. It's not about money. It's not about money. Don't get fooled that it's about money. It's about your belief in coming together as a community to say these kids matter. Our kids matter. Every single one of our kids matter. So let's cut out all these games. Let's cut out all chopping it away. And we ran on a campaign to lift every student. We have our opportunity to start right here, right now with this vote. So I cannot accept any amendment. It's not friendly. Any amendment is not friendly. We will not accept it. We just need your vote. Either you vote, just stand up and just be bold with your vote. Yes or no, so we can move it on and we know where you stand for the rest of the year. You can't come back and say, oh, I wish I would have done that. This is the vote for the moment for now to actually speak to what we need to do. If you're standing for racial justice and you're standing for the kids and you're telling your district staff, the district staff is watching. Now, this is the message we're going to send them. Black kids don't really matter because when it comes to talking and putting it on the table, we're going to actually punt the ball down the field. And so we just can't have this anymore. We just really have to stand and say, what do I believe in? And then you just stand by what you believe in. You stand by what you believe in. And when your Black friend come to you, you can say, I don't believe in Black students enough because I just needed to know about how much it was going to cost for us to invest. But the cost of lives of kids going to jail, kids not graduating, kids with 50% literacy rates, that's way much more. That's way much more. We scare folks from breaking our house, steal our car, all this kind of crazy mess. And we're going to walk around like we have no part of it. We have a part in it. This is our education. This is our institution. Our institution should do right by the young folks. And this is the first step. Now we don't worry about, oh, there's going to be somebody else knocking at the door. Let's work with those folks who are coming knocking at the door because we need to heal all these relationships. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. We just can't do it, Cliff. I'm so sorry. I'm going to make a motion for us just to vote on it and you vote your conscience, vote your values, and then we move on to the next motion. There's no need to just continue to harbor what needs to be improved. Either we're going to go in and work together as a task force, look at how we reallocate, not add more, reallocate and focus on our kids, and it's not about charters. It's not about anybody else. It's about you sitting in this chair, making a vote for either Black kids or not. That's just as simple as it is. I make a motion that we just have a vote and just call it so we all can get on with the rest of our business. Thank you very much.
President Gonzalez, I want to make sure that I'm.
Go ahead. I was just gonna, and I'm sorry, Director Thompson. I just want to clarify there that with this motion on the table, we are not going to accept any amendment as friendly. So thank you, Director Williams, but I just want everyone to hear that clearly from us. We will not accept any amendment as friendly.
So Director Gonzalez, can I make a comment?
Yeah.
Okay. As a Black man who has spent over 40 years in education, as a Black man who taught in East Oakland in District 7, as a Black man who was also an administrator in District 7, as a Black man who was a single father who raised a Black son who graduated from Skyline High School, as a Black man, I understand exactly what's being said. I understand that the resolution talks about the struggle of trying to retain or recruit and retain Black educators. I understand that the resolution talks about the acknowledgement of the passage of the George Floyd resolution. I understand that the resolution talks about how we're going to try to seek and ensure Black students are reading that are ready for college and career. As a Black man, as I read the resolution, I understand that OUSD seeks to eliminate actions and stop and repair the harm to Black children and families. As a Black man, I understand that our Black superintendent really is to establish this, what we call this Black Student and Family Striving Task Force that we call the task force. As a Black man, I understand that as a part of the literacy initiative and curriculum, the adoption will actually talk about involving a number of people in the task force. In addition to that, it's going to review the prior adoption, the recommendation from the superintendent or her cabinet to meet the needs of our kids and literacy development. I understand that concept, but there are a few things in the resolution, and I reached out to several individuals and I said, can we do something about this? And that was not done. So I'm not sure, President Gonzalez, do I make
wait.
motion?
No. I'm sorry to interrupt again. We're not making any amendments. Vote against your son. Vote against all the Black kids that you have. Vote against everybody, but we are not making any more amendments.
Director Williams,
You can go ahead and vote
everybody
against
let
your
you
history.
speak.
We're
Nobody
not making any more
interrupted you.
amendments.
Nobody interrupted you, Director Williams. Can we let Director Thompson speak, please?
So I was just wondering if I am to make a motion or just vote on the motion that Director Williams is going to present.
So my understanding, and Mr. Rakestraw, you can correct me if I'm wrong, once a motion is made and seconded, it belongs to the whole body. It does not only belong to the author of the motion. And therefore, any board member can make amendments. Is that correct? Can propose amendments?
Yes.
Okay, so Director Thompson has a right to make an amendment. I understand you don't want any amendments. But Director Thompson has a right to propose an amendment, and you have a right to vote no on that amendment.
I'm sorry, Madam President and Director Thomas. I wanted to just check one thing in terms of the order of motions. I believe there was a motion to close debate.
No.
I believe, is that incorrect, Mr. Rakestraw?
That's incorrect.
Okay.
So I wanted to
need a second if you want to make an amendment.
Yeah. I'm sorry, ma'am. May I speak?
Yeah.
Okay. So I just wanted to close my amendment with saying that I totally accept the last, be it further resolved, that the board directs the superintendent to include the Black Student Thriving Plan within the 2021-2023 strategic plan to increase and maintain the necessary mandated infrastructures and resources to develop the engagement, leadership, and decision-making power of Black students, Black families, and communities.
Okay,
I didn't hear an amendment.
Can we see the language that you're proposing, Director Thompson? Do we have?
Yes, could I ask General Counsel if you could please show the language?
Sure, Dr. Thompson, do you want to show all of the proposed changes or just at the very end, or what would you prefer?
Well, let's show all of them.
Okay.
I want to be totally transparent with everything that I am suggesting.
All right, Director Thompson, can you see this?
Yeah, I have to, let me resize my window. Yes, I can see it.
Okay. So I believe this would be the first change you're proposing.
Yeah, that's the first change. So,
so if you would read it into the record, please, Dr. Thompson, just so that
Okay, so
As
it's
people read through it,
whereas
yeah.
OUSD seeks to take immediate action to stop and repair the harm to Black children and families caused by decades of structural racism and also by the differential impact of COVID-19 on Black communities. Now, I want to stop there. And then the next one is whereas the district's Black and African-American student population has precipitously declined over the last 20 years from 25,540 in 2000 and 2001 to just 8,314 in 2019-20. And then the next whereas I want to stay, whereas OUSD acknowledges that student education happens not just in traditional classrooms.
I'm sorry, Director Thompson, you don't
Yes.
need to read all of it, just to describe the changes you'd like to make. So you can just simply say that you just strike the last whereas clause.
Okay, so if you look at the whereas that's in red that is lined out, it deals with an education code, administrative regulation, I should say. And so it's removing implications about governing charter schools and co-locations. And then if you go down further, the now therefore be it resolved. Okay, thank you. I'm taking out directs the superintendent, but urges it instead of directs. Okay, you can go on down, sir. You can scroll up a little more. Yeah. Okay. And if you notice, what I've done is I've asked that things like shall or will, I've changed it to simple words like may, because who knows what might interfere with that. But the interesting thing is a task force is going to be established. The task force will have a variety of people on it, people from the community, staff, and then of course, people from our board directors can be on the task force to make sure that all of the voices are heard. And that's exactly what I want to do. So can we go up a little more, sir? Okay. Yeah, okay, right there. Okay, so then if as you notice, it also says that that things have to happen by a certain date. Right here on number 4, you see that August 1st, I took it straight from the resolution that by August 1st, the task force shall present to the board. So there is going to be a total degree of transparency of what's going on. As I mentioned earlier, I have a clause in there for us to make sure that we have a literacy initiative. And just as a side note, being a teacher in the classroom presently, I do want to say that I understand the importance of explicit and direct instruction, especially when it comes to literacy. That's why I can boast about my kids, 88% of my kids meeting or exceeding their target this year in reading. So I kind of understand the importance of what this resolution is saying. I back the resolution 100%, but I'm just taking out a few things.
So can you summarize just like the main changes so that we have a motion that everybody understands?
Yeah, okay. So the main changes is I'm making certain that
a few things.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Director Thompson. Should I take this off the screen or should I keep going? What's your preference?
No, you can take it off the screen now, sir. Thank you very much. The main changes is we're making sure that we have a focus group that is going to work with the superintendent. And then I want the superintendent to make sure that she has some say-so in that focus group instead of all of us deciding something and then just saying, okay, implement this, superintendent. The other thing is I'm making sure that we have a literacy program that is designed to help our Black kids. Well, they'll help all kids if you help Black kids, but they'll help our Black kids learn to read. As you guys know, many of you who are in education, you'll know that at one point they taught whole language. Whole language was, I think, a mere failure. That's why I think we need to get a curriculum.
Is there a clock on this part of the presentation, please?
We're
And
hearing
so-
we're hearing the amendment, the proposed amendment. And then
We're
if there's
not
a
now.
second-
That's already been
Madam
read.
President,
Now we're
Madam
just
President.
talking. So can we have a clock, please?
Madam President,
Yes, Mr.
you're having
Rickstrom?
debate on an amendment that has not been seconded, which is not in order.
Okay, are you done, Mr. Director?
Yes, I am.
Thompson?
Yes, I'm all
Okay.
done.
Is there a second on Director Thompson's motion? Proposed
I
amendment.
second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. Now we can have debate. Mr. Hutchinson, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just find it very offensive that this is even being framed as some small changes when you just scan through the page and all we see is red crossed out. And not just am I insulted for what myself and Director Williams have done to bring it this far, but it's so insulting to all of the community members that we just heard speak over the last 6 hours. So the ask from the community, the ask from the hundreds of emails we've gotten has been very clear. And so if people think that accepting this and changing shall to may and taking out whereas clauses that the community has developed and turning what we are calling reparations for Black students into a literacy plan, if you all think that's what the community is asking for, then you haven't listened tonight. So I'm trying not to get too upset right now, but I'm telling you, if you vote for this, that is voting no for what we presented. So again, like Director Williams said, I would encourage the board directors to turn down any amendments and let's have an up-down vote as is on the reparations for Black students like the community asked. So I will clearly be voting no on this, and hopefully we can have a quick debate and call the question.
Okay, Director Yee, I saw your hand.
Thank you. And I would like to address some comments to my colleague, Director Williams, who addressed me earlier in his comments. And you're right. I did reference Dr. Foster several times in my conversations with you, but I also referenced many of my Black educator colleagues that I've known over the years. And when I reviewed the initial plan that you presented, and I raised some of the issues that I did, and you know, your responses to them, I consulted with people to see if this was a move in the right direction or not. And as you know, I offered to work with you on it, but there was a clear sense that the resolution that you provided was all or nothing. And so I think it's pretty clear, and I've made it clear over the time that I cannot accept it as it was without amendments. When Dr. Thompson determined to make amendments to it, I frankly cautioned him because I believe that this was an initiative that the two of you and some of the members of the community knows that. And I said, when I say some of the members of the community, I mean some of the members of the community. That was something you wanted as a whole piece. So there was really no, I hope this is interesting to you as well, Director Hutchinson, but there was no sense that there was any give. And I appreciate you making that, that clarity in your comments to Director Thompson earlier. So it's difficult for me to see how going forward with Director Dr. Thompson's amendments work for you. They certainly work for me. And so I'm kind of in a dilemma because I'm hoping that there is some space for us to meet, but you and Director Hutchinson and many of the speakers have said, no, it has to be whole cloth. So it makes it pretty clear that I'm going to support Director Thompson, but very sad that we couldn't come to some place where we could agree that no resolution can represent the take it or leave it in a political process that I know of. So I'm supporting Director Thompson.
Thank you, Dr. Yee. Ms. Superintendent, I know that you've had several conversations with different board members about the different iterations, and I just wonder if you wanted to offer any reflections on any of the different versions that folks are proposing.
Sure. So just first, I agree with the spirit and the vision and the principles within the Black Reparation Resolution. I think the idea of thinking about as a system, how we need to improve, how we're centering our Black and Brown students is the work that we need to do. I've been very explicit. I appreciate all the meetings that I've had with various community members around my desire to have these efforts actually help to shape the strategic plan, so that this is not just the work of a task force, but this is the work that we take on for the next 4 to 5 years. So I think those are really the comments that I've made in small groups with various board members, with my staff. The next presentation actually goes over the CCE report. I want to actually thank members of the state for being so open in terms of how we were framing the fact from the data that it explicitly names Black students in addition to unhoused youth and English language learners as the 3 groups that we need to be thinking about as we think about everything. So even in March, when we start talking about one-time funds, we need to be thinking specifically about Black students when we think about credit recovery or dual language, learning loss, what it is that we're going to need. While people were talking, I actually pulled up the Oakland School Board Ebonics resolution from 1997, because I think a lot of it is also learning from our past, the things that we were trying to do, what kernels of those are good and how we can improve them for long-lasting change. There are many pieces in the whereas clause that really mimic or mirror, I should say, some of the issues that were brought up at that time. I would love, and I'm not speaking about amendments right now, but just things that we have done that have had small pockets of success. And I think the spirit of the Black reparation policy is we want to go for system-wide acceleration and really think about all the elements that continue to perpetuate systemic oppression in our district. That's what the George Floyd resolution is about. Again, when we get to the CCEE report, it's that same holistic piece around the curriculum that we're using. That's a lot of what I'm hearing people say. The training for who's in front of our children, whether they're white or are of color. We're all impacted by racism, not just folks that are white. So we all need to do our personal transformation work in order to best serve Black students and other students. So one piece of one example is we recently had the California Teaching Credential approve our ability to do our own induction work here in the district for new teachers. That provides an opportunity for us to reimagine the training that they get for the first 2 years and bring into that how you learn how to be an anti-racist teacher. So that's my vision for the work, regardless of what happens with this policy. I think this is the work that we need to do. We cannot do it as a district without the community. We cannot do this work without the community. But I also know, having been in this district, we have tons of policies. We have tons of resolutions. And then we need outcomes for students. And so what I want to continue to hear from all of us is that the efforts that we're doing, we're really focusing on literacy, making sure our kids are in school, chronic absenteeism. Black students are some of the most chronically absent students in our district. This has been a trend for decades, and making sure our kids are graduating and ready for college. So as we in the task force, wherever this lands, that we're really thinking about how these investments are going to show up and really support our students to accelerate. Finally, I don't want it to be lost that the pieces of this plan are really just talking about all the elements. We know COVID right now has just been completely disastrous, particularly for the Black community. And so I understand the pieces around there in terms of the Black Thriving Fund, looking at some of our funding formulas, how we need to reimagine those as well. So I think there are opportunities for us to be able to do this work. But I hope that there's going to be more fruitful conversation so that we can land on something so that we can really get to implementation and make sure at the end of the day, this work is going to be happening in school sites. That from our teachers to our paraprofessionals, our classified, our parents, our principals, that not only do we have the resources in terms of the stuff, but also to make sure that people are getting the support in terms of the capacity to show up differently for our students and families.
I'd like to call the question, please.
Is there a second?
Second.
Which question are we calling?
The amendment is on the table now. And so if we're going to have a discussion, I would much rather it be around the resolution that Director Williams and I brought forward. So I'm calling the question on this amendment, which Director Williams and I and the community have made really clear that we are not in support of. And this would totally rewrite the reparations resolution. So that is the question I'm calling.
Thank you, Director Hutchinson. Mr. Rakestraw, I believe you need 2/3 to close debate. Is that correct?
No, you don't need 2/3 in this instance. You need a majority of the board to close the debate in this particular.
Okay. So we're voting on whether to close debate on the amendment. Mr. Rakestraw, can you call the roll call?
Yes. On the motion to close debate, Student Director Powell, Student Director Ramos.
Abstain.
Okay. Director Ng,
No.
Director Yee,
No.
Director Williams,
Yes.
Director Hutchinson,
Yes.
Director Thompson,
No.
Vice President Davis,
No.
President Gonzalez.
No.
The motion is not agreed to. Debate may continue.
Thank you, Mr. Rakestraw. Is there anyone else who would like to discuss the amendment that's on the table? Go ahead, Director Hutchinson.
Yeah, I just, you know, while I'm on a slow burn here, not only do I find this extremely offensive, but it sure feels anti-Black to me right now. This resolution was brought to the last board meeting, and this school board unanimously voted to push it forward to this meeting. And now y'all think you're gonna rewrite the resolution and all of a sudden substitute it, and the community that's worked years on it, you think they're going to accept this? I'm not sure if everyone realizes who just showed up to support this measure tonight. We had 3 city council members on this call at one point or another, including the council president. And we had other council members send us emails. We've received hundreds of emails over this. And I only heard one caller tonight speak against this. And he was speaking about charter schools and private schools, which we know we can't set their policy. And so what you're doing now literally is spitting in the face of us who worked really hard for this. It's 11:30 at night. We got 200 folks who have been on here, this call, since 5:30, 6 hours waiting for this. What do you think they're gonna feel when they see that all the board members, except for Director Williams and I, just voted to continue talking about this amendment that clearly rewrites the community's work? And if you think this is something about politics and you don't understand that the Black community knows that our schools have been closed through school closures. I can tell you about Santa Fe and Maxwell Park, my 2 schools, 2 Black schools. Santa Fe Elementary, 3 blocks away from the founding intersection of the Black Panther Party. That's what's happened to us here. We want to talk about Black students in Prop 39. Like we just discussed Aspire Eris earlier today. That school, according to their stats, has less than 3% African-American students, yet they are set to displace students at Brookfield. In that equation of cost benefit, where are Black students falling? They ain't benefiting from it. we're the ones getting displaced. And so for you to object to that language, that means you think it's okay that we're prioritized first for those closures. To change shall until May, that means you don't really believe in Black reparations, but you're hopeful we can do a better job. And I'm gonna be real, because I think Director Williams was real with everyone before. I hope you are prepared for the optics that you are showing our community right now. Because you're just telling them, like everyone who's got those Black Lives Matter signs up in front of their house, you need to think about how disrespectful you were to these two Black school board directors and to the Black community that showed up today and all of our allies that showed up to support us, including the city council president. We have unanimous support for this across the board. So if you all want to walk out on that limb and defend status quo and think watering down Black reparations and Black History Month 2021 is going to work for you, that's okay. But like on the real, you don't even understand what you're unleashing right now with this disrespect. So hopefully we can turn down this amendment and we can have the up-down vote that the community is expecting on the original resolution. But you cannot escape that responsibility. And the community who put together this resolution was clear. They want it as is, or they don't want it passed. This is a collective work from the Black community that put this together. And y'all are telling us that you know better how Black reparations should look rather than the Black community. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Hutchinson. I think there are several people who haven't had a chance to speak yet. Director Ng or Vice President Davis, would either of you like to speak?
Sure. Speak.
Go ahead, Vice President Davis.
Yeah, so I think, it's a hard situation. I think as newly elected board member, it's challenging because I hear the question about, this is the language that the community wrote. At the same time, that's really the job of a school board member, is to integrate the demands from the community into the work that staff is doing. So I know I've spent the past couple of days, since hearing from the community on Thursday that they did actually want more than just a task force. They wanted a lot of different elements of this plan. I've been working with staff to try and understand which elements can be integrated with the work that staff is doing, and which, because what we often see in Oakland Unified is many different plans that are in parallel and that are not integrated with each other. So we really need to be figuring out how to not duplicate our work or have work that's going across purposes. So I take that responsibility very serious. I think in terms of the reason I voted to continue debate was I really wanted to speak to Director Thompson's amendment, which I really appreciate all the work he put into it. I think what we're hearing from the community in terms of the demands, right, is we're hearing funding, a task force, indicators, and a plan. In terms of that's the core of what I've heard from the community, those 4 points. And I did see the indicators, I did see the task force, I did see a plan, but I didn't see a reference to funding, and I do think that that's really important. So I think unless that element is pointed out to me in Director Thompson's resolution, I feel like it doesn't really meet the questions from the community in terms of what they were looking for. So I'm reluctant to support that at this point. I do think that it's a challenging, it's really hard to work fast and work well. And as we know, school boards are very slow moving bodies. You see how long this meeting has taken just to get to this point. And we've had 2 meetings on this. We're trying to pass this resolution. The demand with the community was pass it in February. And I think the challenge we're seeing is if the demand is to pass it in February exactly as written, I think that's a difficult bar to reach, because inevitably in public policy, you do need to make changes to proposals. You can't take something just exactly as written, because you have to have the flexibility to work with staff in order to accommodate the reality of the situation. So it's a tough situation. I think on this amendment, I still want to see something more. But I do see I do understand the need to be able to make amendments to the proposal. Thank you.
Dr. Eng?
Thank you. Thank you, Vice President Davis. You actually hit on some of the main points that I wanted to bring. So I think in terms of making this, you know, as Superintendent Dr. Schmel said, that this is the work in terms of what the work is ongoing. And that is what we've heard from many of the community members, that the work is already underway. And I think it is really important for us to identify and really be specific about the priorities that we are going focusing on. So I had actually prepared another substitute motion that that was focused on, for the areas that I saw was the highest priorities coming out of the resolution, which was creating a task force, creating a plan for Black students, supporting creating a Black fund that supported targeted investments to increase outcomes for Black students, and the work around the Black Thriving Index and developing accountability to monitor, as well as I had already talked at the last meeting about a commitment towards revisiting the equity formula in the next budget cycle. And we've already talked at the Budget and Finance Committee with CBO Grant Dawson about looking to revisit that formula, as well as continued commitment to the George Floyd resolution, and ensuring that there was trainings across the board in terms of the system. So I know that we're talking about Director Thompson's amendment and not, you know, an alternative substitute amendment. But I wonder, Director Thompson, do we have a copy of your amendment somewhere? Because I would also like to see all of those 4 components specifically addressed, so we can make sure that that we are organizing it in a way that that calls out all 4 of those areas. Am I allowed to show my, procedurally, am I allowed to show my substitute motion just to, I'm looking for.
We have to address the motion that's on the floor, and then we could take up an amendment to, if the board adopts Director Thompson's, then you could propose an amendment to it. But it looks like are you done, Director Eng? Because it looks like Director Thompson would like to say something.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to try to answer Director Ng's question. It's certain words were put in, and then if the strikeouts were left for everyone to see. But that's what my amendment would be. Does that kind of help a little bit?
We don't have copies of what you're looking at.
Oh, you don't? Okay. Maybe. I'm sorry. General Counsel has a copy, so maybe he can send it to you. General Counsel, can you do that? You want to sit right now?
Sure.
I'm sure all the board members probably would like to.
So if General Counsel, is it possible that you could send it to all of the board members?
Sure.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Put it back up on the screen so that folks can see. Just to
Public
have a
would
reminder.
also probably like to see it. Yeah.
President Gonzalez, while there, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I think I shared last time, you know, none of us, I'm not happy with the outcomes that we're getting for our Black students. I wish that I had, you know, known that all this, you know, organizing was going on. I would have loved to have, you know, been part of the conversation. I think it's just too fast. So for me, you know, I already shared that I would have preferred for this to come back in March when we could have more information. And that wasn't the desire, right? That wasn't what Director Williams and Director Hutchinson wanted to do. So, you know, I would just like to see us slow down and get a little bit more information about all the various aspects of what's being proposed. but I am very supportive of us trying to figure out how we can serve our Black students better. I just think that the whole history of OUSD is a bunch of failed initiatives, frankly, that weren't sustained. Part of that has been due to leadership turnover, but part of it has just been due to not really having a plan, right, about how we were going to actually sustain the work over the long term, and not using enough evidence and data about making decisions about investments. And so that's really what I want. I'd like us to slow down and have some more of that information. And I think the idea of making this part of the strategic plan is a really good one, because I think that's how we can actually guarantee that it's going to be resourced, staffed adequately, and resourced properly. So that's what I would offer at this time. Director Thompson,
may I say something, please, first?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. I think you're totally correct. And we wanted to be part of the strategic plan because, as I shared with the superintendent, I want her to be totally involved in what's going on. Because when it's a part of the strategic plan, then we know that we're going to actually put money toward it, put time toward it, put effort toward it in order to make sure that the initiatives, whatever initiatives we agree on, that's a part of that plan, then we're going to make sure that it's worked on and it's worked through. But can I just speak now as a teacher, as a classroom teacher? I know the importance of literacy. That's why I wanted to make sure that stayed in the resolution, because we're talking about making certain that our Black kids are literate. I am not satisfied with what I see in terms of, you guys probably hear me talk about it all the time, tangentially, but I'm not satisfied with what I see in terms of how the academic programs are solid for everyone. Because, and I'm looking at Director Ramos right now, and I know she's going to be going off to college, and Director Powell. Then I just want to make sure that everyone has all of the skill they need and they're totally prepared to get into any kind of college or do any kind of career they want. That's why I think literacy is so important. We talk about math being a gatekeeper. Literacy is the real gatekeeper, because if you're not literate, you can't do anything, not even math. So I just wanted to share that and see, and that's why I wanted to keep a number of things in the resolution. I really did. But then I said, I got to think about and consciously say, what am I doing as a teacher? Because District 7 is holding me to the fact that I'm also a teacher and I've been an administrator. So I should know all of these things. And so that's what's most important to me, is making sure that our kids are totally equipped to be able to either pursue career or college. That's, just plain and simple.
Madam President, let's see here. I need to figure out how to just withdraw the amendment, because I do not want any. I've asked Dr. Thompson has not actually listened. I asked for no amendments, and he put forth one anyway. The community is not going to accept this plan that's been changed without their input. So that it really is an insult to them, that we will sit up here and cut up their resolution. As Mike said, for the last 2 years, 150 meetings, and try to give it back to them. So it's rather to let the community know that the board chose not to pass it than to pass a resolution they've had no input in. That is something that I think we really should consider. I will request for us, to call to vote, return this to the original amendment, and I'll just withdraw it, because it is completely, it's painful to even hear that at this time, these particular amendments or these particular expectations come up to change the spirit of what's going on. So I will take the L. We can just move it back to the original, so we can just withdraw it and move on. I mean, to me, it's like the expectations to have everything that everybody wants ahead of time. We're losing kids every single day. And so it is just unfortunate that we put up so many roadblocks and barriers and obstacles to actually get to what we really need to do. And so that's a false sense of like, well, we can just add all these other things into it and change the direction of what it's going to be. And it's going to take another year to get it up and then another year to implement it. But this whole thing is just really about, getting to the table and having a community input on how to help out young Black kids. But to get to the table, we actually are raising up the bar so high to get over the hurdle to get to the table. So we might as well just tell folks, like, we're not going to vote for it. And thank you very much for waiting 6 hours, and let's move on, to try to have a debate and find all the best things to it. We know where we stand. We know where we stand. And so I just don't think it's necessary for us to entertain this amendment. So if we have to vote on it, I mean, why would you vote on changing the resolution and then giving it back to the community? That is the biggest. I mean, that's more than a slap. That's how disrespectful is that? We're not listening to you. What you gave us, we're going to change and put it right back in your face because we know you don't want it anyway, right? That is like beyond disrespectful. You rather just go ahead and vote and say, sorry, we just don't feel like it's the right resolution right now, than to actually vote on a resolution with changes and tell the community we accept that. So I don't know, Mr. Rakeshaw, how we move this or how I withdraw this amendment or withdraw the resolution, but it's terrible to cut it up into sushi and then move parts around and add some extra ingredients in there and call it the same resolution. It's a disservice to Black kids in District 7 and in every single district. I mean, maybe Kyla has something going on with like integrating some of this into the strategic plan, but really, it is a tragedy that you would hear all these folks ask you to do something, and then you said, thank you for calling in and stand up, and now I'm gonna change everything you've worked on for the last 2 years in a 30-minute discussion, and then give it back to you. We're gonna pass it as a board and then give it back to you and say, here you go, take that. You might as well just tell folks like, thank you, but no thank you today. So that's really where we need to be. And we know where, each one of us stand, and it just is what it is. You can come up with more excuses than not to just put a vote out. So I don't know, Madam President, how we can move forward, but I cannot. I mean,
so,
I can't.
I see Director Ramos. I just have a question, Director Williams. Are you wanting to withdraw it indefinitely? Or
No. I made the motion, and we're not withdrawing any motion that we made to approve this. So that's not even on the table now, and that's not how this works. So y'all can go through with this vote on the amendment, but there's no us withdrawing the motion that we made. Y'all are gonna have to vote something else in the community's faces. We're not backing off from anything. So I'd like to hear from Director.
I thought I heard Director Williams say that he wanted to withdraw it.
It doesn't matter. I made the motion to approve it, and that's not how parliamentary procedure works.
Madam President, you're going to have to dispose in some manner with the amendment that's on the floor at the moment. And depending on the outcome of that, will determine what your next step is.
Okay, Director Ramos, I saw you with your hand up.
It was sad. It was very sad. I don't know why we haven't had the student director speak at first. I think this is one of the things that's always for youth, and this is only going to affect the youth and families. And the reason I'm always on my phone right now, it's because I'm getting thousands of youth, not thousands, but we're talking about hundreds of youth speaking to me right now and saying how this sucks. Seeing your own board people who you voted in, who we thought we could trust, be able to pass this, at least tonight, on Black History Month. And the thing that I really just want to bring up is, for me, that I really found this hella important in the resolution. And I even talked to Kampala, who's one of the main organizers of this whole thing, is how I didn't have Black history or any type of a whole Black curriculum being taught to me into my junior year. And it was by a white teacher who I really trust and I really admire for, that he literally had to take it out his own curriculum and have his own money invested to buy the books. And the fact that this is OUSD, where like OUSD is like historically Black, known for having hella Black students, and then Oakland is known for the Black history behind it, the Black Panthers. I'm just feeling it right now, and I'm not. The reason I abstained, it was because I wanted to speak up about this and the fact that we're still having the same conversation and going in circles and circles. And I don't know who we're representing. Are we representing charter schools, or are we representing actual public schools at this point? Because what I'm seeing right now is I'm representing charter schools, and the fact that we know the history about charter schools. And I know people are going to hate on me tonight, but I'm not even tripping, because I'm representing my own youth, and I'm representing the own youth of OUSD. So I'm just disgusted at this point. Yes, so whatever happens tonight, just know it's going to affect students. It's going to affect the trust that we have with the board as a community. And it's like, it feels like when you give your older brother, or like, you just leave your food out there and somebody takes your food and then chews it out and then spits it back out. That's how it feels right now. So I don't know how the community feels, but this is how I feel. So I'm gonna just leave it to that.
Thank you, Director Ramos. So colleagues, would you like to vote on this? Are folks ready to vote? Do folks want to ask more questions or have more debate? Okay, let's go ahead and vote. I'm not seeing any desire for further debate. I know, Director Ng, that you have some additional language you'd like us to consider. So let's see how the vote on this amendment goes, and then potentially you could propose additional language.
Is it possible can we table this? Is it possible to table this amendment to consider another substitute amendment? And I'm just wondering about procedurally.
You need to dispose of the motion in some parliamentary manner that's currently before you. And what you have is a motion to amend the main motion. There's a proposed amendment to the main motion, which is now before you.
Director Thompson, are you open to additional language around establishing let me look at
a Thriving Black Students
Thriving Black Student Fund that targets investments to Black students to increase outcomes. Hold on, I have this. Are you open to additional language that creates the opportunity to target and direct funds and resources, and would seek philanthropic and public partnerships to support and direct resources to?
I certainly am. Yeah.
I need to. A second to pick up the language really quickly.
Okay, so Mr. Rakestraw, can Director Ng propose an additional amendment to this amendment, or does she need to wait?
Go
ahead.
Is it friendly or unfriendly to the maker of the motion?
Sounds like Director Thompson is open to it.
Yeah, I'm open to it. It's friendly amendment.
Okay, so Director Ng, would you like to share the language with the board?
Okay, I'm typing this very quickly, so let's see how this works. Yes, should I put it in chat? Or
General Counsel have it? See it also. I can't believe we're wordsmithing Black reparations at midnight, and y'all are just playing this amendment game. But the community needs to see what it is, so not just in the chat, please.
It would be. I'm trying to withhold the intent of the 4 priorities that was uplifted to me as the
if
main
we're not prepared,
and goals.
As a Black man, the way we're treating Black reparations, this is how we get.
With all due respect, Director Hutchinson, you're not allowing us to. I would support Director Williams' suggestion of potentially tabling and taking a little bit more time to rework. That's what we had discussed earlier. When we talked about this coming back to the board, we had talked about it as a task force. I have since understand that the desire is for there to be more than a task force, which I also support. So you're putting us in a difficult spot where we are wanting to.
Nobody reached out to me to work with me on it before.
Director Hutchinson, can you let Director Ng?
I believe that there can be a middle ground. I think it's difficult when we're being pulled in these polarized places where I do believe that I would like to be able to work to find a middle ground that helps to support the intent of the 4 priorities that was uplifted to me as the main priorities of the resolution.
This doesn't feel like it, and especially again, as the bringer of this and as a Black man who brought this, whose family has put in as much time as anyone's family in this district, to hear everyone else think what they think is most important to lift up. And the original motion has been buried under this avalanche of amendments. It is sending a clear message to folks. And I just want to say this, the message is not, we want to work with you.
Okay, I see you, Director Yee, but I'm wondering if Director Ng is going to be able to show the language that she's proposing so everyone can see it.
Okay, and
can you share with the General Counsel so he can put it up on the screen?
General Counsel, can I share this middle bullet?
Director Ng, I mean, you have the ability to share your screen, or you can send the language to me and I'll put it up if you prefer.
I can share my screen. This is just an excerpt of this substitute resolution I was working on, but let me just see here. That it would be oh no, sorry. Oh wait, sorry. Hold on one second. I need to find just that one paragraph. I know that this is okay.
So, Director Ng, we can't see anything shared right now.
You can't. Okay, let me try this again. All right, so that would be what's highlighted right here. The board and superintendent will seek public, private, and philanthropic partnerships to create a fund for Black students to resource targeted investments to accelerate the academic outcomes, support the social emotional well-being of Black students, increase literacy rates, reduce chronic absence, decrease suspension rates, and increase A through G requirements for high school students and cohort graduation rates. This is already, the board also urges the superintendent to revisit the equity funding formula for the 22-23 school year to ensure the equity formula does not disproportionately impact Black students.
Okay, is that language already in the First Amendment about the equity formula?
Is that to me?
Yes.
Yeah, not exactly as that, but there is some language in there. There is language in there that relates to the equity formula.
Okay. Well, if you're open to those changes, Director Thompson.
I'm certainly open to those changes, yes.
Okay. So General Counsel, can you figure out how to incorporate them and then show that to us? Meanwhile, we'll take Director Yee's comment or question.
I certainly support the effort that we're doing to cobble together the 2 proposed amendments. I think they're both in the spirit of the comments that many of us made at the first board meeting where it came up. And so I would just though also want to respect Director Williams and Director Hutchinson for their determination to keep it as it is. And it just simply puts the onus on us who are considering the amendment to own up to the resolution that is being proposed. And I accept that responsibility, and I appreciate the work of the folks whose work is essentially in there. I didn't see a lot of it. I didn't see a lot of new language from Dr. Thompson. I don't know about Director Ings, if that was new language. I know that the equity formula, funding formula, was something that I noticed as well in the original adoption. So it seems to me that this is kind of a friendly reinsertion of it. And so if that brings us to some consensus about owning this work that we are about to vote on, I do agree that that is the work of the board that needs to take responsibility of it and accept that responsibility, not as the ones who are bringing it forward, like Mr. Hutchinson and Mr. Van Williams, but people who are drawing from that and creating something that they expect the superintendent to carry out and implement in the coming year. And that's all I had to say about it. And I was only going to do that while Director Ing was preparing that piece to insert. So.
Okay, Director Hutchinson.
Yeah, I want to make it clear. As you're cobbling together these amendments, the one thing you're leaving out is the original resolution that we proposed. As I'm watching here, the three people who are against this effort to amend everything are the three directors who have said all along that we are highly in support of Black reparations. So please don't delude yourself into thinking that you're actually doing what everyone wants, but you are editing it for our benefit on our behalf. Like, this is really, really insulting. And if you all wanted to work on this measure, you knew how to reach out to us over these last 2 weeks. As the callers let you know, people have heard about this effort to introduce amendments at this late point. So this isn't trying to work together and make it better. You all said this was moving too fast, and you're trying to write something right now on the spot that you want to pass. That seems pretty quick to me. And the community was involved with this. The city council has backed this. You all unanimously endorsed putting this forward. You didn't introduce any amendments last time. You didn't play this game last time. So I just wanted to be clear to everyone, like, this isn't surprising. And what you are doing more than anything is for the Black folks paying attention and our allies paying attention. You are reinforcing the dynamic that I've lived with my whole life, that Black folks have stood up and told you what we want for reparations to make us whole. And you all have sat here tonight and said, well, we know better. And you're picking out the pieces you think are better, and you plan on writing it with no involvement of the people who brought this forward and who have worked on it for the last 2 years. This is the epitome of insulting, disrespectful dismissal. And that's why Director Williams was saying, well, we'll just pull it, because the disrespect is that much. And so I just hope you realize what you're doing. We've tried to tell you clearly. The community who's still on this call now have told you. And if you change the language, you better have public comment again, because what you've done now is you've introduced a substitute motion. This ain't no amendment. And we all see the game that you're playing. And I am insulted that you would choose something called reparations for Black students to play these games around. So you can talk, some of you like to talk about you're playing politics or adult issues or center the students. Y'all need to take a look at what you're doing, because the only person you're hurting are our Black students and their families that for generations have been crying for reparations. We got it this close, and look how you're running away from this finish line.
I see you, Director Thompson. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say, it was, thank you, Director Ing, but I think your idea was more subsumed in what I presented earlier. So I don't think we need to add yours, but thank you very kindly for that. But I think it's already included. And I think Director or General Counsel Daniel sent that out to everybody, that that language is already in my proposal or amendment.
General Counsel, do you want to show us what it looks like with Director Ng's language there?
Sure. So just to be clear, what I've done is I took the paragraph that Director Ng showed. Make sure I have the right one up. And because it addressed two related but separate items, I broke it into two be it further resolved clauses inserted right before what would be the last be resolved clause under the proposal by Director Thompson. So it reads, be it further resolved, the board and the superintendent will seek public, private, and philanthropic partnerships to create, to create a fund for Black students to resource targeted investments to accelerate economic outcomes and support the social emotional well-being of Black students, to increase literacy rates, reduce chronic absenteeism, decrease suspension rates, increase A through G completion for high school students, and increase four-year graduation cohort rates. Then a second be resolved, the board urges the superintendent to revisit the equity funding formula for the 22-23 school year to ensure that the equity formula does not disproportionately impact Black students. And then it would go on as Director Thompson previously proposed.
Okay, so Director Thompson, are you okay with those changes?
I'm totally okay with it, yes.
Okay, good. Colleagues, further questions or comments?
Madam President, should I keep this up or should I take it down?
I think take it down. Okay, I'm not seeing additional, oh, go ahead, Vice President David.
Thank you. Yeah, I understand that this is a huge disappointment to the community members who have been on for this long and who wanted to pass the resolution exactly as it was originally stated. But I also do feel like, just in my conversations with staff, that I heard serious concerns about how to implement the resolution the way it was, in all of its pieces. And I think that we have to look at this as, a step forward in the direction that we're trying to get to, and that the additional pieces that have fallen off, we have to figure out how to elaborate those and bring them back and continue to move this process forward. But to me, something is better than nothing. And this addresses some of the demands that the community has brought forth. So I think in its current form, I can support it.
Director Ramos?
So are we creating a whole new resolution at this point? Because I'm just confused, because at this point, like, the community hasn't spoken up. I'm hearing from both the directors who are introducing that they're not in position, and we're just creating a whole resolution at this point. So I didn't know this is for the staff. I just thought this was for the students. So.
And the Brown Act applies with a new resolution. This language hasn't been noticed to anybody. I mean, this is really off the rails now. I'm sorry, Director Rome.
All good. Is there any way we can allow public comment to I just want to hear Sister Asada to speak, at this point. That's just my question.
Okay, thank you, Director Ramos. So colleagues, it's 12:09. So we have some choices. We can do another round of public comments, but then I would propose that we move the rest of our remaining agenda items for the night to another board meeting, because I don't think we're all going to be doing our best work at 1 o'clock in the morning by the time that we get to those agenda items. So Mr. Rakestraw, how do you propose that we proceed if folks want to hear more public comments? But then how do we then move the rest of the agenda to a subsequent meeting?
Well, on the first one, if the board at its option desires to have additional public comment on the proposed amendments, then you may do that. It will take a few minutes for the General Counsel and I to confer and confer with the superintendent about whether or not there are any other critical items on tonight's agenda that has not been addressed that we would recommend to the board to be addressed because it needs to be addressed before the next board meeting.
Okay. He did say that we do need to definitely do the consent report and perhaps the fiscal sustainability.
And also, I would recommend that you would also do the new business item around the credentialing of teachers that normally you do.
Okay. Okay. So, colleagues, does anyone have any strong objections to taking more public comments given the changes? Okay, let's take 15 minutes, 1 minute each of additional public comments. So raise your hand if you would like to comment on right now what we're talking about is the amendments, and perhaps Director Ng, you can just say the 5 pieces I think that the amendment includes.
I'm sorry, say that again. Are you talking about?
Just so everybody understands what the amendments are that we're going to be voting on, can you just run down the 5 pieces? I think it's 5 pieces that would be moving.
Thank you. So I had a substitute motion that was prepared that had 5 components, but since in lieu of that, because Director Thompson introduced an amendment, then I, in lieu of that, introduced just an amendment to Director Thompson's resolution around the Black Thriving Fund, Student Thriving Fund that was not I did not see included. It seems like the other components, there are components that speak to the other areas that I thought were priority in terms of creating a task force, creating a plan for Black students, creating the Black Fund and the Thriving Index to be able to monitor and develop the and create accountability around the metrics, as well as, yeah. So I think those are all included, and I believe the implementation of the George Floyd resolution may have been also. So I will not at this time introduce my substitute amendment, which elaborated further on all those components.
Okay. We will take.
Madam President,
yes.
I will just remind you, if you're taking 15 minutes additional comment, we're going to need a motion to extend the meeting.
Okay, I will move to extend the meeting till 1 a.m. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Can we have a roll call, Mr. Rakestraw?
All right, technically speaking, yes, okay. Student Director Powell? Yes. Student Director Ramos?
Yes.
Director Ng?
Yes.
Director Yee?
Yes.
Director Williams?
No.
Director Hutchinson?
No.
Director Thompson?
Yes.
Vice President Davis?
Yes.
And President Gonzalez?
Yes.
Motion extended to 1 a.m.
Okay, we're gonna take public. Thank you, Mr.
Extended to 1 a.m.
Okay, we're gonna take public comment until 12:30, 1 minute each. Ms. Floyd, can you call the public speakers?
Yes, the first speaker is Kim Mayoshi. What happened? Okay, she's disappeared. Next person is Cecilia Jordan.
Word. I'm just gonna give you all a free history lesson because Mr. Davis, I'm so offended that you as a white man had the audacity to say something about like politics and the rule of law, because what you need to understand is that the rule of law was built to enslave Black bodies. And every day that you don't know the history of California public schools, you slap Black educators in the face who have to know this history. And the history of California public schools and Black schools specifically is purposely underfunding through redlining, through policy after policy after policy after policy. And all we are asking you to do today is to fix the mess that you inherited. And we recognize that this is an inherited mess. We recognize that as a community. But when you continue to play these gaslighting, narcissistic, white supremacist games, you, sir, Sam Davis, are being anti-Black. You, Director Thompson, are perpetuating internalized anti-Blackness. And this is so disappointing. We are tired of this. Director Ng, we know you. We expect better. Do better.
Next speaker.
Do better.
Our next speaker is Pacolia Manigo.
Y'all are so disappointing. It's ridiculous. But I appreciate you because what you just did is you proved that anti-Black racism is real in OUSD. You did it. You stepped up to the mic. I've been texting every single person that I can to just remind them why this resolution came to you. Because we knew that if you had the chance, you would fuck it up, and you did. So don't be surprised when you see the rage that is coming towards you. We do not agree with this amendment. And Director Thompson, shame on your ass for waiting till the last minute to make this amendment. Shame on you, Director Davis. Shame on you, Director Yee. Shame on you, Director Ng. And definitely shame on you, Director Gonzalez, because y'all had 2 weeks to work with us to make amendments, and you chose to do it right now. I want everyone in the public to know that you did not work with us to make this happen. You chose to do it this way. Even the superintendent knows. We've met with her twice, and many of you hadn't even read the resolution that was before you when we met with you or we tried to meet with you. So I want the public to know that we tried to work with this board to make these amendments before tonight, and they chose to do it on the mic, y'all, and they chose to do it this way. And this is anti-Black racism in action right now.
Next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Ben Tapscott.
You know, racism is alive and well. I think the public have seen it up close and personal. We need to start a recall. The fact that you people sitting up there do not represent Black students. And Cliff, I'm thoroughly disappointed in you. You talk about I this and I that and I that. You couldn't even keep 100 men's school open. I did what you were talking about over in West Oakland for 5 years about reading. So you're a huge disappointment, and I wish I had got you, and I would have got you had I had more time. Superintendent, you've been here 4 years, and you have not improved the education of Black children. You continue to close Black schools in West Oakland. You go too slow. You go too fast. Where's the money? This is a racist board, and it's crystal clear that you don't care anything about Black students, and we need to recall every one of you that's sitting up there now that didn't do the right thing.
So, Mr. Tapscott, next speaker.
Next speaker is Maria Dominguez.
For the record, this is Maria Dominguez, OUSD proud alumna. I want to direct my comments to Director Sam Davis. I am in disbelief at your arrogance and you talking about public policy and that you're going to be here tonight making public policy. Well, let me remind you, public policy has public in front of it. Public policy in action is not just what the people in power do. It shouldn't be that way. We don't need you to remind us of how public policy has worked here for over 500 years of oppression. Okay, I have a public policy degree from Mills College. I know what public policy should be. It should have the community in it at all times. And how dare you reject public policy from the community, from the ground up? It's an embarrassment that you are affiliated formally with Oakland community organizations, my training ground for organizing my community in Onoloni land, rooted in social justice and anti-racism work.
That's your time. And I just want to remind everybody, I know people are feeling a lot of feelings. And I just, please, let's not engage in personal attacks.
Next speaker is Kampala Rancifer.
This is a personal attack. This is a personal attack on our community. Clifford Thompson signed on to this resolution. I read it to him, word for word. Talking about I'm a black man this, I'm a black man that. You won by 80 votes. Let's be clear. I live in your district. Let's be clear. You don't have that much support in that area. You have to remember that who you are. Where is your soul? You asked me, did you know I'm a black man? And after I read it, of course I signed on to it. Did you know I'm a black man? Where's that black man right now? Where is he? Was that the charter industry that tapped you once they saw what was in it? You knew what the right thing was to do from the beginning, and you sold out. So now, thank you for letting everybody see who you are. Thank you for letting everybody see who you are.
That's your time.
Amy Ng.
Can we hear from the next speaker, please?
Next speaker is Andrea Cousins.
Hi, I just wanted to make it clear that, again, I mean, a lot of us are still here. A lot of us really are coming from places where we are working with thousands and thousands of community members to fight for just the basics, housing, eviction moratoriums, food justice, transit justice, and it's as if you're talking to us as if we're not familiar with this battle, that we're not in constant conversation with all of the families that are going to be impacted by your decisions to move slowly or rethink or revisit and all the other talky that I've heard from you. And really what we're talking about here is we just want you to recognize that this is a district that has failed and doubled over on failure and needs radical action and radical change.
Thank you, Ms. Cousins. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Craig Gordon.
Hi. Yeah, this is stunning. I'm amazed at how I can still be shocked after being in this district for 30 years. And this is all the outrageous things that school boards before you and this school board has done, the school board minus our two new members who are championing this resolution have done. All the school closures, all the privatization. And over this time, I've been, like I say, 30 years, I've seen the percentage of Black students drop precipitously. It's like, from nearly half to like something like, 21% now, and the number of Black teachers. And it's all because of these school closures and the privatization that has gone along with it. And that has, and what I see you doing now is the incredible disrespect of doing it like this. And what I couldn't even see all the things that were being changed, but the cuts to the getting rid of the,
Thank you, Mr. Gordon.
Against closure.
Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Myra Alvarado.
Good evening again, Myra Alvarado, resident of District 7, Director Thompson, your district. Teacher in District 5 at Manzanita Seed. Thank you, Director Hutchinson, Director Williams, and Student Director Ramos. Student Director Ramos, you are a role model and what I think more of our school board members should look like and should act like. I am like almost in tears right now. I am frustrated because it is almost 12:30 in the morning, and y'all are bringing a new resolution and giving 15 minutes for people to talk about it? Are you serious right now? This is not the board that we have in mind. This is not what anti-racism is about. And yes, there is some internalized racism on this board. We need to support our students. This is too little, too late. Whatever this is, it's not a few changes. It's a whole new resolution. It's not fair to our students.
Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Bethany Meyer.
think I've got myself unmuted now. Good evening. I want to thank Director Williams. I want to thank Director Hutchinson. I want to thank Director Ramos. My heart hurts now for my friends, for my comrades, for my colleagues who are blowing up my phone, and for everybody who worked on this so hard, but this isn't over by a mile. We're not done yet. Wherever there are people, there is power. And no one is done with this yet. So I don't know what you're going to end up passing. I don't know what you're going to end up doing. But I do know that our community and the alliances that have been built are strong, are steady, and will continue. Right now, people's hearts are broken, but I don't want anyone to be discouraged. I want you to be proud of the work that you did. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Meyer. Next speaker.
Macmillan.
I'm shaken in rage because of being re-traumatized listening to this sham and having to bear witness watching two Black men have to serve as freedom fighters for our children and communities. Shame on you, Clifford Thompson, Sam Davis, Shanti Gonzalez, Amy Ng, and Gary Yee. You will be held accountable. You heard from students, the families, and the community. To not listen is to continue to deny that our voices and our lives matter. Too often, the very institutions like school boards lay claim to and are lauded for being champions, when in fact, you are perpetrating and perpetuating very real harm and have patterns of systemic racism and discriminatory practices. And then you use subterfuge and lies to mask and hide your harm. It's going to stop. It must stop. The audaciousness and very real violence you perpetuated on us tonight, Director, and the ones that you directed on Director Williams and Hutchinson, it won't be allowed. We do not agree with this amendment. We see you. You will be recalled. I want to give thanks and gratitude to Director Williams and Hutchinson. Thank you. And thank you to Director Ramos as well.
Thank you, Ms. McMillan. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Hema Gitsal.
Hi, my name is Hema, former state board member on California's state board. And I just want to firstly say thank you, Director Hutchinson, Director Williams, and Student Director Ramos for this advocacy and this work that needs to be done, and to the rest of the school board. I just want to say this is the definition of anti-Blackness, and I want y'all to remember that. Director Gonzalez, as a fellow Latina, I'm very disappointed but not surprised as to the fact that you are representing the anti-Blackness that's in the Latinx community that needs to be addressed. Non-Black people should not have to debate whether or not Black reparations should be a thing. They should not. This should be something we support. If you want to talk about solidarity and anti-racism, this is not what it is. This is exactly what anti-Blackness is. And if you continue down this pathway, all I have to say is, are you really for the community? You're not part of Oakland. If you know Oakland's legacy, you're not a part of Oakland if you're not supporting the resolution as written to the community. But like I said, I'm not surprised. So do better.
Thank you, Ms. Quetzal. We'll take two more speakers.
Next speaker is Reparations.
Good evening. I first want to just say I commend you, Williams, Director Hutchinson, and Ramos. But I'm going to call it out what it is. It's white supremacy. I'm not surprised. I'm really not surprised. But at the end of the day, you know, I feel victorious. We still stood up. We did what we had to do. We came hard in the paint, and we're going to even come harder. So first and foremost, Board Director Sam Davis, you need to really take that Black Lives Matter sign off your yard and out your window, because that's you're not representing us at all. That's just a facade. Maybe that's a facade to maybe I don't know, maybe you're afraid, but we're here. Black reparations is we coming. Everybody on here needs to be recalled. I hope Williams, Hutchinson, and Ramos, you're a young woman, continue to fight the good fight, because this is ridiculous. And then, is there any legalities in that? Thompson, how are you just going to try to rewrite something that we put together? and then you wait till, what is it now, 12:30? Y'all already had a plan. You knew you wasn't gonna pass this shit. Y'all
We'll
full
take
of
our
shit,
last
man,
speaker
for real.
now, Ms. Floyd.
Our next speaker is Asa.
Yes, Dr. Abraham Exkendi made it very clear that what anti-racism is. It's not what you look like, it's what you do. You can be Black and you can be very racist by the policies, he says, by the policies he puts forth. I am a psychiatric clinical social worker. I work in this school virtually every single day in different schools, and I put forth what's necessary for our children to learn. But Mr. Sam Davis, you represent my district, and I've had a personal conversation with you before you ran, and this is exactly what white supremacy looks like. The issue here is that we're looking for a change. This has to be changed. We're looking for a paradigm shift. We're not asking you to continue the paradigm. We're changing the paradigm. And this is what reparations is. HR 40 has been beat to a pulp, and you guys are doing the same thing. Listen, thank you. Send you love. Williams, Hutchison, Ramos, I love you. I will pray for you tonight. I will pray for our people, and we're going to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Okay, colleagues. So we have several other things that we need to take action on tonight. So I see Director Ramos. Go ahead.
Can we just ask for another 15 minutes? We have council members and youth on the line.
Let me ask Mr. Rakestraw, is it possible to pause this and then deal with the other items that we must deal with tonight and then come back to this? Or do we have to finish
I have a motion on the table that needs to
a member may make a motion, and if it passes, to table, which will keep it in this meeting, and you bring it back after other items if the motion to table is successful.
Okay, colleagues, I will entertain motions. We can motion to table this. We can motion to end debate. We can motion to, whatever. So I'll entertain motions right now. Go ahead, Director Yee.
I move to end the debate.
Okay, is there a second?
I second.
Okay. Mr. Rakestraw, can we have a roll call on the motion to end debate?
Yes. On the motion to end debate on the pending motion, which is an amendment, Student Director Powell. Student Director Ramos.
No.
Director Ng.
Yes.
Director Yee.
Yes.
Director Williams.
No.
Director Hutchinson.
I think it's very disrespectful that Director Ramos made a suggestion to allow more speakers, and President Gonzalez, you completely ignored her and went on to the next thing. And so we can see that there's still over 150 people in attendance, and there's dozens waiting to speak. And this is how we're treating them. So I'm not saying, but I think that was very disrespectful, the way you just dismissed the comment from Student Director Ramos.
Sorry, would you repeat your vote on the motion?
Abstain.
Okay. Director Thompson?
Yes.
Vice President Davis?
Yes.
President Gonzalez?
Yes.
Motion to end debate is passed.
So colleagues, now we're going to take up a vote on the amendment. Is there any additional debate? Okay. Mr. Rakestraw, can we have a roll call on the amendment?
Yes, roll call on the motion to amend the reparations resolution. Student Director Powell, Student Director Ramos.
Abstain.
Director Ng. Director Ng. Absent. Director Yee.
Yes.
Director Williams.
No.
Director Hutchinson.
No.
Director Thompson.
Yes.
Vice President Davis.
Yes.
President Gonzalez.
Yes.
The amendment is adopted.
You didn't.
Director Ng has her hand raised.
I don't think you called me, Mr. Rickshaw.
Oh, okay. What's your vote?
Yes.
Madam President, may I make an amendment to call this the, instead of the reparations for Black students, the white supremacy resolution? I'd like to change the name to the white supremacy resolution.
Or alternately, how to sell out Black reparations. I think either one is a working title for this going forward.
I mean, the community doesn't want the resolution amended. So give it back to the community untouched and they will work on what they need to work on. But to change at the last moment at 12 o'clock when they've been working on this for 2 years with hundreds of folks involved and multiple community groups, and 153 people was like, give me my resolution back, then change it. Okay, or just change the name of it so we know that this is not the resolution, the reparations for Black students. I will make a motion to change the name and just call it like the white supremacy OUSD resolution, because it's not this is not the original resolution.
Okay, well, you're making a motion. Is there a second to change the name to the white? Are you making a real motion?
Yes, I'm making a motion.
And I second.
Okay. Is there debate on the amendment?
Yes, I'd like to say something. Again, this is a clear Brown Act violation because you all knew ahead of time you were going to introduce these, and it was not made available to the community or to me or to the other board members. It's a clear Brown Act violation. Then on top of it, we can all see the amount of people waiting here to speak. So it's great that arbitrarily you decide to give 10 or 15 minutes, but thankfully that's not how the bylaws nor the law is written. So not only did you violate the board bylaws, you violated state law with the Brown Act, you also violated any goodwill that you could have built up with the Black community. And like I've seen probably more than most people have at school board meetings. I haven't seen anything like this or experienced anything like this. And for you to take the community's work away from them that we proudly called Reparations for Black students, and you all gonna rewrite it and retake that name and claim that name, I wonder if anyone knows what the colonial model is, because we sure just experienced it right here, where we had a dedicated group of Black folks. We had a city council member waiting to speak. Y'all just disrespected and ignored her too. We brought all of these folks together. And then a bunch of folks who aren't in our community came and told us that they know better and rewrote it and passed it in an illegal way. And I hope y'all listened to what Director Williams said, because that wasn't hyperbole and he wasn't joking. That's how we feel right now. So you took something in Black History Month that we were really proud and excited about. And now every one of these people who worked on it, who are here speaking on it, they're telling you. And so you turn Black reparations into another exercise in white supremacy, into another exercise of Black folks trying to do for ourselves, and you all saying, nah, we know better. Like, I hope you all have seen what's happened over the last year in Oakland and around the country. These ain't those old days anymore. We ain't gonna let this work no more like this. I hope y'all are gonna do some like lawn maintenance and curb appeal, because their car caravans are setting out. Like, folks are not going to accept this anymore. And lastly, it was so disrespectful of our students. Now, thankfully we have student directors here, so I'm not gonna speak for them, but y'all realize our students just months ago self-organized a 15,000 student march down Broadway in the name of Black Lives Matter. And you know what happened at the end of that march? Our city officials and government unleashed rubber bullets and tear gas on our students. This is the same thing. And for me, I'm done fed up with it. And I worked really hard to have a seat on the school board. I'm a damn equal of anyone else on this school board. And I'm not gonna take this, excuse me. No, it's not my time. I am not going to let this go, and neither is anyone else. So I hope you are prepared for the messages that are going out right now about Oakland School Board, their anti-Blackness, and how they cling to white supremacy and cannot let it go. You have sent a clear message tonight that everyone understands, and you all see how many people are watching. Well, thankfully, I control my mute button, and if you learn how to run a meeting with proper procedures and proper parliamentary procedures, then we won't have this problem. But you can't just make it up as you go along, and everyone sees exactly what you're doing and what you're about.
Okay, is there any discussion on the proposed change of the name of the legislation? Okay, Mr. Rickstra. Go ahead, Director Yee.
President Gonzalez, why does that resolution have a name? I happen to believe, as I said earlier, that we own it as the board members who adopted it. And I don't see any need to call it Black Reparations.
Okay, other discussion on the name? Mr. Williams, can you remind the board, is white supremacy resolution, is that what you proposed?
Yes. You know, this is really a joke. I mean, it is really sad, again, that we have taken something that has been worked on and have twisted it around and made all these amendments. It's not serving the community. So you can't like give it back to the community and call it the Black reparations for Black students, because you've taken the resolution and just turned it on its head and then try to feel good about it. So what we're doing is, we know that there's this OUSD is this institution that's been created prior to us getting here, and it has limited how we actually move and the decisions that we are making. And this is just another continuation of supporting that. So it doesn't make any sense to carve up a resolution and cut out all the whereases and stick in some other terminology and then add more other terminology without even consulting the community who actually created it. I could see if Director Thompson went to the community and said, this is my changes, this is what I'd like to talk to you about, or Amy Ng, let's sit down and here's the changes, and the community could have said yes or no, but we didn't do that. And then we want to pass it and say, feel good for ourselves. But we're doing the complete opposite. Opposite of reparations is white supremacy. That's the opposite of what we're doing. So, I mean, I put it out there. If you want to kill it, you can kill it. That's fine. The point being made is that you want to better the resolution. It's not good enough. So we want to add all our additions without actually engaging the conversation with the members. You've all said to me, these are the changes we would like to see. We went back and made changes. We called up each one of you, talked to you multiple times, texted you multiple times, and not one of you had said, these are our changes that we would like to see. That's the crazy part. We did it. I listened to Shanti. Go talk to the senior leaders. I went and talked to them. I got the rest of the crew. Can you call each other and let them know what's going on so we can clearly communicate what's going on? And not one of you, as Mike said, here is our resolution. Here is, Dr. Thompson said, hey, man, I got a couple questions. I gave him answers to his questions. He didn't say, hey, man, I want to rewrite half of your resolution, delete half of the whereases and put my own stuff. He didn't say that to me, because I would have told him, no, man, get out of here with that. Amy Ng, I text Amy Ng before. I hadn't talked to no other board members. I text her, hey, what do I get? Not one thing. So let's stop the games, man. And that's the whole thing. The title is ridiculous, but it actually is fitting to what we're trying to do here, which is to marginalize Black kids even more by making these changes that we didn't even get a chance to talk to the community about. So if I was you, and one of you directors, I would say I'd rather go to the community first before I make any changes, right? Let me suggest this to the community. Maybe we can find a middle ground to work on. But this particular, we're uncomfortable with your resolution, so we're going to add this at the last moment at 11:30. I don't know what you call that, but it's not helpful, and it's not driving what the original the intent of it is. It's doing the opposite. So the only thing I could think of, the opposite of Black reparations, is white supremacy. We go right back to the same place. Now, I don't think y'all actually gonna vote for this and actually say, yeah, we're gonna vote for this and we pass the white supremacy resolution, because it'll go all over the news, and then everybody's gonna be talking about this issue forever. And they're gonna be looking at Oakland and say, what the heck did Oakland do that they actually passed the white supremacy? Like, yes, you have all the Trumpers coming down, high-fiving you. So I don't expect you to actually pass this, but it's just a fact of no one is taking the whole understanding how deep this has affected people. That's all I'm saying. Thank you,
Dr. Williams. Earlier, you mentioned preferring to withdraw this rather than see amendments made to it. And I certainly, if you decided to do that, and I realize that Director Hutchinson made the motion, not you, so it's not your decision. But I would be interested in sitting down with you and seeing if there's something that would be more acceptable and that everybody could live with. So I'm just putting that out there, that I think it would make sense to sit down. I'm talking right now, Director Hutchinson. I didn't interrupt you. So when I'm done talking, I'll call on you.
You did interrupt me every time I spoke tonight.
I will call on you when I'm done. So Director Williams, I think from my perspective, it would make sense to slow down and see if we can have more discussion about something that everybody could live with. I hear you, that you don't want to see something that is not your full vision, but everything our board does is a product of compromise and negotiation. I know that's not what you're looking for, but that's just the nature of, the fact that there's 7 of us and that everything that we do is a product of compromise. So I'm just going to put that out there. And Director Hutchinson, would you like to respond? Or?
Yeah, there's no pulling a motion back now. Y'all voted on the amendment. You voted on the amendment. And please don't treat me like you think I'm stupid, like I don't know that this was planned ahead of time. And then even when we got here at midnight, y'all didn't even have the documents ready. Like, this is offensive. You tried to run a bait and switch weak hustle on us. It ain't gonna work. And so why are you telling us now, well, you can still pull it? You just voted on this other resolution. So are you saying you're gonna rescind this vote that you just had on this amendment? And then we can pull it back? Because you didn't even give us that opportunity. You all steamed right ahead to vote for something else instead. So please don't treat us like you think we're stupid. So you can rescind this vote, you can pull it back, and then we can go back to the community and come with something else. But that's not where this stands right now. What you all just did is you co-opted our motion, you co-opted our name of it, and you co-opted our community's work.
So I actually did ask Mr. Williams, Director Williams, earlier if he would like to withdraw it, and you said no, it was my motion, and I'm not withdrawing it.
And Mr. Rickshaw said that you couldn't do that because there was an amendment that had already been introduced, and that needed to be handled first. And what you all did is you voted for that amendment without us having the opportunity to have that. And we never even had an opportunity on an up-down vote for the resolution that the community brought forward, which was their main ask all along.
Okay, colleagues, I think we should just go ahead. I don't see any other debate on the motion that's on the floor. Unless Director Williams wants to withdraw it, we're going to go ahead and vote on it. And then we can go back to the main motion. So not seeing any other debate, go ahead and call the roll, Mr. Rakestraw, on the proposal to change the name of the resolution to the white supremacy resolution.
Okay, Student Director Powell, Student Director Ramos.
Yes.
You voting yes on this to change the name?
Yep. Yes. Yes, also.
Okay, all right. Director Ng,
No.
Director Yee,
No.
Director Williams,
Yes.
Director Hutchinson,
Yes.
Director Thompson,
No.
Vice President Davis, President Gonzalez.
No.
The motion is not agreed to.
So, Mr. Rakestraw, is there still an option in case either of the authors or anyone else on the board withdrawing the resolution so that we could have more time to work and collaborate on something that everyone can live with?
Well, what I would suggest that you know, withdrawal is possibly an option, or you can make a motion to postpone to a time certain, and then you can bring it back with any proposed language changes. Either way will probably work.
Okay, would the authors of the resolution have an interest in spending more time on this and trying to find a resolution that would be more satisfactory?
We just approved an amendment, and now that is the standing resolution right now. So I don't know what we're going back for and what you're asking us to pull when you just voted to approve an amendment to the original motion.
Okay, go ahead, Director Yee.
I have to agree with Director Hutchinson now. It's my understanding, according to parliamentary procedure, that the amendment that we adopted has become the resolution. And so, you know, for the sake of the rest of the meeting and so forth, as I said in the beginning, those of us who voted for it own it. And let's start with that place. And if there's some further discussion about it, we can bring it up at the next meeting, because we still have the rest of our items to do. We're not going to resolve this tonight. This is a lot of about this. I would rather just leave it at where we are with the amendment, which we have voted on 5-2, and proceed with the rest of the meeting. And if there's further discussion on it, it can come up again in our next board meeting.
Well, Madam President, the issue with that is that the amendment has now become the main motion. And so if you're going to do something else with it, then you have to use some parliamentary procedure in order to do that.
Okay.
So, and I'm not
We
suggesting
could do a postponement to a date certain, correct?
You can do that. That's an option.
So, Director Yee, I hear you. I'm just trying to see where the rest of the board is at and trying to be responsive to people's, feelings of hurt and anger that this is something substantially different from what was proposed. And so I'm just curious, Director Williams, I see that you wanted to say something.
Correct. I'd like to propose to amend the amended resolution to the original resolution.
I second.
Okay, is there debate, colleagues?
Yes, please, people, stop messing with this resolution. Bring it back to the original. We will go back and rework it. Period. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and this gives one more opportunity, because obviously some of the board members didn't understand how amendments and original motions work. So now you finally have another chance to do the right thing and not just substitute your own resolution for the work of the community. So I second Director Williams, and I would again respectfully request that you take a minute and pause and consider what this actually is that you're doing and the message that you're actually going to send to the community.
Okay, so the motion on the floor, as I understand it, is that the original language would be restored, but that we would not vote tonight, that there would be a process of compromise and negotiation. That's what I heard Director Williams say. So Director Williams, can you clarify?
Yes, original language should be restored to the original amendment. And upon the passage, we will pull the resolution.
Okay, colleagues, there's a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any debate?
I'm sorry, you're saying that if we're going back to the original resolution and then we would postpone it for further, because I agree
A
with
time certain date, yes.
Okay.
We'll do
And
a time certain date.
I know it's challenging with Brown Act, but I would love to be able to participate in. I agree that the community should have another opportunity to be able to find language that hopefully we all can support.
Okay. Is there any other debate or comments? Okay, Mr. Rakestraw, can we have a roll call?
On the motion to strike the previously adopted motion and restore the original proposal to its form. Student Director Ramos.
Yes.
Director Ng.
Yes.
Director Yee.
No.
Director Williams.
Yes.
Director Hutchinson.
Yes.
Director Thompson.
No.
Vice President Davis.
Yes.
And President Gonzalez.
Yes.
The motion is adopted. The original is restored. Now you need to do something with the restoration.
So Director Williams, how do you think 6 weeks would be enough time to convene folks and talk about what would be a potentially a legislation that everybody could live with?
Can we go March 24th? That's a month from now.
Yeah, as long as there's openness to, if the board says, we're not there yet, then be open.
Well, we're going to come back to each director and continue to work through it.
Okay. So
March
the
24th.
motion is to postpone to a date certain, March 24th. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Is there debate or discussion?
Yes,
Go ahead, Director Hutchinson.
I would propose now's our chance to not vote for this, and we can have the original resolution that the community asked for all along. We just approved. So I am not willing then to say, no, we're going to pull it back for another month. We just approved the original resolution. That's what I want to stand. And if there's work that needs to be done on it, like the community's been saying all along, now we can start that work. So why do we need to do anything else? We just did what I know the community asked me to do. And I'm prepared to let this stand now, finally.
There's no adoption of the original motion.
No, we just voted to substitute that for this.
Yeah, it became a main motion that's now on the floor. It was not adopted. You amended the motion to restore the previous language, which in effect was an amendment which struck the original amendment that was made on the floor tonight. And now we're back at the status of where you first began when Director Williams made the initial motion to adopt the resolution as noticed and published in the agenda. That's where we
are. I made that motion, but that's okay.
Colleagues, is there any debate about the motion to postpone to a date certain, March 24th? Okay, Mr. Rakestraw, can you call the roll?
Student Director Ramos.
Abstain.
Director Ng.
Yes.
Director Yee.
Yes.
Director Williams.
Yes.
Director Hutchinson.
No.
Director Thompson.
Abstain.
Vice President Davis.
Yes.
President Gonzalez.
Yes.
This matter is postponed until March 24th.
Okay, colleagues, we have a few items that we need
Madam President, we need a motion to extend the meeting.
Yes, thank you. Would you like to make that motion?
Yeah, I move to extend the meeting until 1:30.
I second.
Okay, can we get a roll call on that, Mr. Rakestraw?
Vice President Davis has moved it, and who seconded it?
I did. Cliff. Director Thompson, I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. On the motion to extend the meeting to 1:30 a.m., Student Director Ramos?
No.
Director Ng?
Yes.
Director Yee.
Yes.
Director Williams.
Yes.
Director Hutchinson.
No.
Director Thompson.
Yes.
Vice President Davis.
Yes.
And President Gonzalez.
Yes.
Meeting's extended to 1:30 a.m.
Okay, so colleagues, I'm going to propose that we move S2 to a date certain, March 10th. I understand from General Counsel that we do need to do the consent agenda and S3 tonight. So we will move our new business items also to a date certain, March 10th. And I'm just trying to check if there's anything else, General Counsel, that we must take up tonight.
Madam President, the teacher credentialing issue is usually one that's crucial to the continued functioning. So I would recommend that get adopted.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rickshaw. So we will move on to item S3, which is adoption of the fiscal sustainability plan. And I want to apologize to our colleagues at the CCCE, but we just didn't get there tonight.
Should I start with item S3, Madam President? Madam President?
Yes, let's go, S3.
Okay. So S3, this was presented at the board 2 weeks ago. It was then discussed at Budget and Finance the following day, and it comes back for a vote, an action. There was one requested change that came in after the publication deadline. And so I would ask that the board, whoever makes a motion, if they do, to include this change. I'll just briefly share my screen. Excuse me, Ms. Grant Dawson, gonna bump you off there. That we add the sentence, the district will follow all FVP recommendations that were not completed in its list of actions for the FSP priorities as described below. Basically what this says is that for any fiscal vitality plan recommendations that were not completed, that they will be part of the actions that staff takes up under the fiscal sustainability plan priorities. We referenced that later on, but the request was made to be more explicit about it here. So my ask would be that whoever, assuming somebody does make a motion, that it include this
I'll move adoption of the fiscal sustainability plan, including the language just shared by General Counsel Daniels. Can you put it up on the screen so that everyone can see it?
Oh, I apologize, Madam President. It was on my screen, but I didn't hit OK to share.
Okay.
So this is where it would be.
Is there a second?
Yes, I second.
Thank you, Director Thompson. Colleagues, is there debate on the fiscal vitality plan adoption, on the fiscal sustainability plan adoption? Okay. Mr. Rakestraw, can we get a roll call on the motion?
On the motion, on the roll call to adopt the pending motion. Student Director Ramos.
Abstain.
Okay. Director Hutchinson.
No.
Director Thompson.
Yes.
Director Williams.
No.
Director Ng. Director Ng. Director Yee.
Yes.
Vice President Davis.
Yes.
And President Gonzalez.
Yes.
Motion's adopted.
Okay, we're going to move then to item T2, which is application for a provisional internship permit. Is there any discussion of this item? Okay, Mr. Rakestraw, can we get a roll call on the motion? We need a motion. I will move adoption of the application for provisional internship permits. Is there a second?
Oh yeah, I second that.
Okay, let's get a roll call on the motion.
Okay, SG and CT. All right. On the motion to adopt the permit. Student Director Ramos.
Yes, Mr. Rakestraw, Samantha Paul, Director Samantha Paul is still on.
Okay. Director Paul.
Yes.
Okay. Director Hutchinson.
Yes.
Director Thompson.
Yes.
Director Williams.
Yes.
Director Yee.
Yes.
Director Ng.
Yes.
Vice President Davis.
Yes.
And President Gonzalez.
Yes.
Motion's adopted.
Thank you. We'll take up item V, which is adoption of the general consent report minus the 2 items that were pulled, which were items V9 and V17. Is there a motion to approve the general consent report minus those 2 items? Go ahead, Director Yee.
So moved.
Okay.
And I second.
Okay, thank you, Director Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
Can we, is there any debate on the general consent report minus those 2 items? Go ahead, Director Hutchinson.
Yes, I want to second what Sister Asada said, what feels like about 6 hours ago now when the community was allowed to comment on the item. I think it's very inappropriate to have over a half a dozen board policy changes within the consent report. And this is work that went on before the new board members even came onto the board. So not only has there been no conversation, there's really been no engagement with the new board members. And as a practice, we should not be having board policies contained in the consent report where they're not properly vetted, highlighted to the community, and discussed. And so I would like us to change that practice going forward. And I'm not going to be able to approve this consent report because of that. Board policy should not be in the consent report. They have to be agendized and discussed so we actually know what policies we're approving. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Hutchinson. Is there any other debate on the consent report minus those 2 items? Okay, go ahead, Director Williams. You're on mute, Director Williams. You're still on mute.
Can I get clarification, Mr. Rakeshaw? Board policy by consent decree, is that possible?
Any item before the board can be on consent unless it's decided otherwise. Any voting?
Director Williams, just for some clarity, usually when they're on the consent report, it's because something changed in California law, and we're just updating our board policies to be consistent. Generally, any substantive changes to board policies will be on the main agenda so that the board can debate them. I don't know, General Counsel, if you want to add anything else, but that's typically why policies are on the consent report.
Sure. The changes proposed in the consent report are consistent with compliance changes that are needed under federal program monitoring, which was an auditing process that we went through recently. And the changes are consistent with what is necessary to do that process. So they are not intended to be substantive beyond what is required under state or federal laws appropriate.
Yeah, I just thought that was something that was a closed session, board approved changes.
Typically, no, that wouldn't, as a general rule, board policies wouldn't be discussed in closed session. If that's what you're asking, Director Williams?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Okay, colleagues, can we take a roll call? Is there any other debate on this general consent report? Okay, Mr. Rakestraw, can we have a roll call on the motion?
Yes, Student Director Powell. Student Director Powell?
She just left. She stepped out.
Okay. Director Ramos?
Abstain.
Okay. Director Thompson?
Yes.
Director Hutchinson?
Abstain.
Okay. Director Williams?
Yes.
Director Yee?
Yes.
Director Ng?
Yes.
Vice President Davis?
Yes.
And President Gonzalez?
Yes.
Motion is adopted.
We're going to take up now item B1, which is the second general consent report. These are the items having to do with our general obligation bonds. Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Thank you, Director Yee. Is there a second?
The poll on the first consent should happen before we move on to a new agenda item.
Okay, we're going to take those up in just a minute. I heard a second from Director Thompson. Is there any debate on the second consent report? Okay, Mr. Rakestraw, can we get a roll call on the motion?
Student Director Ramos.
Yes.
Okay. Director Yee.
Yes.
Director Ng.
Yes.
Director Thompson.
Yes.
Director Williams.
Yes.
Director Hutchinson.
Yes.
Vice President Davis.
Yes.
And President Gonzalez.
Yes.
Motion's adopted.
Thank you. We'll now move to the two items that were pulled from the consent agenda. Item V9, which was the contract for Teach for America. Mr. Hutchinson, Director Hutchinson, would you like to speak to this?
Yes,
we need a motion and a second before debate.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt? Director Yee, I see a motion to adopt. Director Thompson, I see a second. Thank you. Go ahead, Director Hutchinson.
Yes, thank you. These contracts with Teach for America are really a practice that we need to move away from as a school district. I actually find it offensive that we would be looking to find teachers who only have 5 to 6 weeks of training and don't have full credentials and are not fully trained. These are not the kind of teachers that I think it's acceptable for us to put in our schools' classrooms. We need to find highly qualified, highly trained teachers. And while this is happening, we're preparing to hand out March 15th letters to teachers and again, get rid of probably 200 to 300 teachers that we already have during a teacher shortage. And so what I would like for us to do philosophically is switch how we do this. We need to create our own pipelines. We need to do a much better job of retaining our quality young new teachers that we bring into the district. We need to consider things like a third probationary year if we need it for these teachers that we're investing in. And why are we going to give $750,000 to an outside private agency so they can send unqualified teachers to our schools? It's bad management, it's bad practice, it's insulting to the teachers that we have in Oakland. And again, putting in the larger context of what we just heard today, you know, y'all didn't want to move forward on Black reparations in the way the community wanted. If you approve this, what you're also saying to that community is on top of that, they don't even deserve highly qualified, fully trained teachers. So again, Teach for America, 6 weeks training. That's not enough to come and work in our schools. So hopefully we can change this. And if we need to find more quality teachers, we know ways that we can go about it rather than creating a $750,000 contract with an outside private agency. Thank you.
Thanks, Director Hutchinson. Is there any other debate? Go ahead, Director Thompson.
Yes, I have a personal relationship with Teach for America in that I was a classroom teacher at Stonehurst back in 1999, and I had a Teach for America person teaching right next door to me. And so we were grade level colleagues, and so I was able to assist him in actually doing what he was supposed to do. But what I have learned, not only since then, but also recently, I've had grade level colleagues that are Teach for America. I'm really excited because, and also as a college professor in educational program, I'm excited because Teach for America does a good job with helping teachers develop lessons. They do a good job of making sure that assessments are given to students to see where they are at the beginning of every class year. And they also do a great job with classroom management. And also they provide a great deal of professional development for those teachers. There is a communication between the Teach for America person and also the site administrator. And I've been in that role also, where I've had a chance to actually talk about where the Teach for America person was and how well he or she was doing, and then suggest to his or her mentor, which Teach for America also provides, and talk to them about where I think things should happen in order to embellish or enhance that person's ability to teach. So it's just that I've had positive experiences going way back to 1999 with Teach for America. Thank you.
Thanks, Director Thompson. Is there any other debate on this motion? Director Ramos, go ahead.
I've had amazing experiences with my teachers from Teach for America, but I've also known a teachers who are from Teach for America and have had horror stories, especially with students of color. One of the things is that, Teach for America does place teachers that come all over from the United States and, come and serve the communities, underserved communities, and provide that white savior type of thing, which I've seen in different schools. But I've had myself amazing teachers from Teach for America, but I also want to share the fact that there's also horror stories about teachers who do come from Teach for America from a 6-week, as Director Hutchinson has said, and it goes for the wrong being of the student, because the student ends up failing, the student ends up not following their dreams or careers because of one teacher or a couple of teachers that do come from different programs. That's my only input.
Thank you, Director Ramos. I thought I saw another hand. Vice President Davis?
Yeah, thanks. I definitely hear the critique of Teach for America, especially on the national level, and just the role that they've played. And I just really want to thank Tara Gard for preparing a really thorough memo explaining the role of Teach for America in our district right now, and how she and the district as a whole have really worked to build our own pipelines. I agree with Director Hutchinson. That's something that we need to be strengthening and building up. And so I do see this as a temporary measure as we're trying to build our own pipelines. And it does seem like the number of Teach for America teachers that we're relying on to fill, we do have a real need for teachers in Oakland. So we don't have an ability to fill all the spaces that we have without using the programs such as Teach for America. And I was also interested to see that the district has worked with Teach for America to increase the diversity, because this definitely does have a certain reputation for, what kind of students or what kind of college graduates participate in Teach for America, and that they have actually provided some more diversity to Oakland, especially in terms of Latina and Latino teachers, where we're struggling in Oakland to meet that need. So as much as I do have concerns about Teach for America, I do think this is important to approve in order to continue to supply the teachers that we need in the classroom.
Okay, Director Hutchinson, you had your hand up again?
Yeah, I appreciate the stories of everyone, and everyone has good and bad experiences with different individuals. My younger brother did Teach for America and then stayed and taught in the district afterwards. But I want to bring home the point. These are not credentialed teachers. These are not teachers in the process of getting their credential. This is a 6-week training. And again, I find it offensive that somebody would propose that that's the best we can do by our students and our families. And if it is, we need to be in a different line of business. So the easy solution, because we're talking about a contract for next year, is just don't give so many non-reelect March 15th letters. And we can use those teachers. Or maybe we could use our hundreds of substitutes who are asking for more jobs, instead of relying on people from outside of Oakland with 6 weeks training, with an organization that has a political agenda. And we all know who they're connected to. So if you want me to go down the litany of how Bill Gates and the Waltons donate money to Go, which then donates money to certain people's campaigns for school board, which then also funds Teach for America, it's all connected. I don't think we should privatize our teaching force. I think we need highly qualified teachers, which 6 weeks training doesn't present itself. And I do not want unqualified teachers in Oakland, or definitely in District 5. And by definition, 6 weeks training is not what we require from our teachers. So why do we accept it from over there?
Thanks, Director Hutchinson. Director Yee, go ahead.
I wanted to what I believe clarifies the preparation of Teach for America teachers, and I wondered if the superintendent could clarify Mr. Director Hutchinson's 6 weeks is the only training they have. I believe they come in with their subject matter covered, the CSET covered, and they are enrolled in an internship program, which is what many, if not most, of our existing programs have. So would you be able to comment on that, Superintendent, or refer to one of the other folks of your staff?
Hi, Superintendent, if it's okay.
Hi, Ms. Gard. Thank you.
Hi, yes. Teach for America teachers are intern teachers. They they pass their CSET. They're in a credentialing program with intern credentials. So they're not, I mean, I think as what's being said is that they get 6 weeks of training, and that's not really what happens with Teach for America teachers.
And then of our substitute
Director Hutchinson, I think, I'm sorry, Director Hutchinson seems like he had something.
Well, let me just finish my question.
Right now it's Gary's turn, so please finish.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Director.
So the
Director
second part was Director Hutchinson's comment about having substitute teachers instead of the Teach for America teachers. And what percentage of our substitute teaching force has full credentials? Would you happen to know or estimate?
I don't know off the top right now how many teachers have full credentials that are substitutes. Usually it's retired teachers that are fully credentialed, but if someone has a substitute credential, they can only work 30 days consecutively in the same classroom for that year, which is why you'll hear students say that they have a series of substitutes instead of one consistent person. So if you have a substitute, they can't stay longer than 30 days in that classroom.
Thank you.
And then for special ed, it's 20 days.
Thank you.
Okay, colleagues, is there any more discussion? Go ahead, Director Williams.
Thank you, Madam President. So I think one of my concerns is just the fact that we're talking about teacher retention and teacher turnover. And it doesn't, I mean, percentage of individuals who stay from Teach for America is not that high. And so we're after 2 or 3 years, we're back at the same step we were when we first got them. So I'm a little concerned by that because that continues to create instability in our schools. And so I would like to see if we could make a motion to reduce our dependence on TFA, to reduce it to possibly 0 at the end of the contract. Like, I think we really need to start to develop and invest in our teachers. You gave a list of all the teacher programs there are in the Bay Area, and it just really seems like there's a great opportunity for us to put this money into those teachers who actually live in the area. So our consistent reliance on temporary teachers only continues to produce or actually exacerbate the problem that we have in retaining teachers. So, we probably can go, up to 50 1 year and try to start reducing after that till we get to 0 within the 4-year period. I think that's 3 years. We do something like, up to 50 with a goal of 0 by 2014.
So Director Williams, right now we're voting on a contract that is on the agenda. Mr. Rakestraw just told me that because we didn't notice a conversation about having the number of TFA teachers, that's not something that's appropriate for us to vote on tonight. But I think that that's something that, maybe you can work up some language with Ms. Gard about, reducing our reliance on TFA over time, and then bring that back for a future board meeting. Mr. Rakestraw, is that what we would have to do?
Yes.
I know it's late. May I just respond quickly?
Sure.
To that? We hire over 300 teachers a year, and currently we have 17 TFA teachers. And I just don't want the misconception that we're bringing in hundreds of TFA teachers every year, but we do work closely with TFA to make sure that we're bringing diverse teachers that they're clustered at schools where the principals are seeking other TFA teachers to work with teachers so they have a pair, at particular schools that are not in certain communities that we've talked about before. So we've done a lot of work with TFA, and there are also a lot of TFA teachers who stay in this district. So I'm just going to say that, and I just need to make sure that it's with a belief that we're filling all of our positions with TFA teachers. That's my conclusion.
Can we reduce the number to 25 teachers instead of 50?
Director Williams, that's a conversation that we have to have at a different time because we didn't notice that we were going to be talking about
okay.
size of our TFA. Yeah. So let's have that. Let's bring that back. Is there any other conversation about this TFA contract that's on the agenda tonight? Okay. Go ahead, Director Davis. Vice President Davis.
Just to note that in my understanding of the contract, is this right, Ms. Gard, that the contract says it's 0 to 50. It's not a requirement that we employ 50 teachers per year. It's a range of 0 to 50.
Yes, 0 to 50.
Okay. Can we have a roll call on the motion, Mr. Rakestraw?
So on the pending motion, Student Director Ramos.
Yes.
Director Hutchinson.
No.
Director Thompson.
Yes.
Director Williams.
No.
Director Yee.
Yes.
Director Ng. Director Ng.
Yes.
And Vice President Davis.
Yes.
And President Gonzalez.
Yes.
Motion's adopted.
Okay, we have 4 minutes until we said we were going to adjourn. So colleagues, I'm really sorry, but we still have a couple items here. So I will move that we extend the meeting to 1:45. Is there a second?
Yes.
Okay, can we have a roll call, Mr. Rakestraw?
Student Director Ramos.
Yes.
Director Ng.
Yes.
Director Yee.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Hutchinson.
No.
Thompson.
Yes.
Vice President Davis.
Yes.
And President Gonzalez.
Yes.
Motion meeting extended to 1:45 a.m.
Okay, Mr. Hutchinson, the other item you pulled was item B17. Would you like, we need a motion to adopt, colleagues. Is there a motion to adopt? This is a learning pod at Sequoia Elementary.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Vice President Davis, second by Director Yee. Mr. Hutchinson, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. There's been a lot of these popping up in the consent report, and I'm really concerned that we are setting up learning pods, but we're not setting up classroom pods. And this really seems like an effort to work around the lack of agreement with a teachers union. And I have real problems with us setting us up this way instead of us doing the real work to provide in-person instruction. These have been rolling amendments to these MOUs for a year now. So the real question is, why are we setting up learning pods at our schools when we've been saying all along it's not safe to set up in-person instruction?
Okay,
And
Superintendent.
Wait, excuse me. I know you love to cut me off, but you can at least give me the 2 minutes here. This is really a problem. This is why we have so many questions about this. And again, the other part of this is we as a school board cannot meet over Zoom if we are engaging in-person instruction. And so if we're setting up this learning pod, if we're saying it's safe to do this, then it needs to be safe for us to meet in person, socially distanced also. And so we need to tighten this up. What should be happening at our school sites is learning pods with a credentialed teacher. That is what our families want, to provide in-person instruction. And if we're telling our families it's not safe to do that, then how can we set up these learning pods? And why are we contracting with outside providers to do what we should be having our credentialed teachers do? And so this is a problem. There's a lot of these through these consent reports, but we need to tighten this off. And my ask as a school board member, kind of like Teach for America, we cannot give substandard services and programs to our community. So this needs to be in-person instruction in a pod if that's what we're deciding that we're going to do for the community.
Superintendent, would you like to say anything about the learning pods that we're setting up?
Yes, I would. Thank you for the comments. Learning pods, learning hubs is actually a practice that's in many districts across the nation as districts are transitioning into in-person instruction. We have many of our partners that have been working with our students already, such as our after-school providers. So these are individuals who have relationships with that particular school community. We've had many of our paraprofessionals providing the instruction portion, and many of our after-school providers really working on attendance and engagement and more of the one-to-one supports. These are in stable cohorts, so it's very different than bringing large groups of people together who may be different individuals on a regular basis in a large community. It is sanctioned by some of our guidance from the county, and they have to remain at 25% or below capacity. And our launch into doing this really had to do with the attendance data that we've been sharing since the very beginning, just showing the specific groups of students that our schools are having trouble reaching and still having trouble reaching, trying to find opportunities for them to be able to be on campus.
Go ahead, Director Yee.
Thank you. This particular contract is for East Bay Agency for Children, which is in general the after-school provider well known to the school and well known to the families in the area. I believe that the support that they provide, the supplemental support that they provide, is an important and requested addition to the distance learning that's undertaken currently at Sequoia School. So I would urge my colleagues to vote for this MOU.
Thank you, Director Yee. Is there any other comments? Okay, Mr. Rakestraw, can we have a roll call on the motion?
Yes, on the motion to adopt the pending question, which is item V.-17, Director Ramos?
Abstain.
Director Thompson?
Yes.
Director Hutchinson?
Abstain.
Director Williams? Sorry, you're muted, sir.
Yes.
Okay, Director Yee?
Yes.
Director Ng?
Yes.
Vice President Davis?
Yes.
President Gonzalez?
Yes.
Motion's adopted.
So colleagues, we're going to skip our introduction of new legislative matters tonight. It's there if you want to see it. It's a new charter petition coming forward that'll be heard on March 10th. I hope everyone's okay with skipping our regular board member reports and agenda building so that we can spend our last 10, 12 minutes on public comments. Is everyone good with that?
Madam President?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Rakestraw.
Introduction of new matters, also an opportunity for the public to introduce new items, so I would suggest that you do that.
Okay. Are there any public introductions of new legislative matters? It's hard to tell because people have their hands raised for public comment, I think. Okay, well, I have no way of telling Mr. Rakestraw who's raising a new legislative matter. So we'll move on to item Z, public comment on non-agenda item, on all agenda items. We extended the meeting to 1:45, so we'll take 11 minutes of public comment, 1 minute each, and I'll hand it over to Vice President Davis.
Thank you. Ms. Floyd, can we have the first speaker?
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm going to say, I'm just going to call on Frederick Douglass and say, those who profess to favor freedom and yet deprecate agitation are men who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. So since you've done this now, the thunder and the lightning is coming. I used to be mad at the fact that white people put us on ships and brought us to a country that we didn't understand to make us do things that we weren't designed to do for them. But then I had to think about it. Somebody had to tell them where to find us and how to get us on the boat. So I understand everything that happened this evening. And I'm going to say that I didn't go through being harassed as a Black teacher and have my classroom vandalized and be attacked by other teachers to deal with this kind of foolishness. It's hard to be a Black teacher at OUSD. You don't even understand the kind of stuff that goes down, racist emails that they cover up. But I'm fighting for this to the end. Believe that.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Go ahead, Ms. Garcia.
Oh, I pushed the button, didn't even mean to. Okay, so good evening, everyone. Morning, whatever it is. I just really want to lift that, you know, we showed our students who we are tonight. And I want to commend Director Williams, Director Hutchinson, Ramos, and for standing up for students and the Black community in a way in which they deserve, and am deeply disappointed in the rest of the board. You failed our students and told them that their voices and the voices of the community do not matter. And I implore you to take a deep look at yourselves and step into the whiteness in which you're living so that you can address it, because the current system that you are upholding is the one that has done so much harm over the years to the Black and Brown community in Oakland Unified. Trying to make small repairs have happened throughout my career here, and it hasn't worked. We've heard the outcry. So there needs to be a shift. And I really appreciate people uplifting the idea that we actually, this is uniting people and driving the work deeper. And we will come back together and support the community, but it shouldn't have come to this. Thank you.
That's your time. Next speaker, please. Please go ahead, Ms. Tillman. Ms. Floyd, I think you're muted if you're trying to announce the speaker.
Shalonda Tillman. I'll come back to Ms. Tillman. Melody Davis.
Ms. Davis, can you unmute yourself?
Okay, we'll come back. Miss Money. Sharon Rose.
Thank you. I have two things to say about things that were on the consent calendar. On the question of TFA, I think the best thing you can say about TFA is it's a science experiment and our children are the guinea pigs. And if it was such a great program, why don't we just have TFA teachers and none others? We save a whole lot of money. I'm a really good teacher, but it sure as hell took much longer than 6 weeks to make me into that. And the other thing I wanted to mention, thank you, Sister Asada, for bringing my attention to it, is V45 about adult education. Congratulations. You're finally in compliance with the state law about being represented and figuring out who your representative is going to be on the consortium, on the local adult consortium. Some of us have been trying to tell the board for a long time that you are out of compliance.
Thank you, Ms. Rose. Next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is Laura Rice Hall. Asada Olabala.
Yes, thank you. Well, I will be in a meeting tomorrow morning at 10:30, Rules Committee, and I'll be in a meeting at 6:30, Police Commission, and 4:30 at Education for Change. And I will do what I can do best and speak to the white supremacy resolution and expose you for what you have done. At every meeting I go to, I'll be in the Alameda meeting next week and talk about how this board voted for a white supremacy resolution. And by the way, the resolution, the amendment that you so-called did, Thompson, I couldn't read it. I didn't know what the hell you were talking about as far as amendments. But I saw that you scratched out chartered schools. Every chance chartered schools was mentioned. But anyway, I'll be in the next meeting with the white supremacy resolution. I just called a couple of people. All of them fell out laughing how ridiculous you are as a board. And Mr. Davis, something is better than nothing. That's what you're going to tell Black people? Something is better than nothing?
Thank you, Ms. Olabala.
You need to go check yourself on that.
Our next speaker is Myra Alvarado.
Hey y'all, I'm still here. Gonna teach early in the morning, but I'm still here because I love my students. I love my students, and I'm gonna be there in the morning with my cup of cafecito because I love my students. And I invite you all to be actually going into the classrooms because I think that a lot of you have forgotten why you are on this school board. Go to classrooms and see what teachers have to deal with each and every day on Zoom classrooms. With that being said too, I think that it is ridiculous that we only have 2 to 3 district folks on the bargaining table while there's 12 teachers coming to every session and talking about our contract or our MOU to reopen schools. If y'all really want to take this seriously, then you need to be there at the table too. Like there's no way that we could come up with an MOU on safety and all these different things where there's not people at the table that have the knowledge to actually talk about it. So bring them and visit our classrooms. That's it.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Kampala Rancifer.
I am profoundly disappointed in this board. I could speak more about Director Thompson, but my ancestors told me not to argue with someone Harriet Tubman would have left behind. I want to thank Director Williams and Director Hutchinson and Director Ramos. You made me proud. Thank you for your advocacy. This board could have had allies in this work, but instead you've angered the community and you've revealed yourselves. And that white supremacy resolution, that's exactly what you did. That's what you did. Those were choices you made. These outcomes that our students have are not by accident. They are by design. They are the matter of policy that you set. Sam Davis, you were supposed to be different. Hashtag same as every other day. Disappointed. Amy, people don't call you out because you're so nice. I have to let you know, super disappointed. Expected more from you.
Thank you, Ms. Tays-Rancifer.
Our next speaker is Ishmael Almendarez.
You're on mute, Mr. Armendariz.
You want to call the next speaker, please?
Yes. Ben Tapscott.
I'm very disappointed in what witnessed this evening. We need to mobilize, we need to organize, and we need to recall board members. We do not need another 2 years of this. As far as Teach for America, I went to school 4 years to become a teacher. We do not need Teach for America in our school district. You send out your March 15 letters. Just because you sent out those letters doesn't mean you can't pull those teachers back. Many of them are probably in our union. They've taught in our district for a year or longer. And if we bring these people back in, ill-prepared, unqualified, they will probably end up in black and brown schools because that's where the vacancies are. So we do not need to spend $750,000 to bring in Teach for America, unqualified, uneducated, to be in front of our children in our schools in Oakland.
Thank you, Mr. Tapscott. This will be our last speaker.
I'll go back to Mr. Almendarez, Ishmael Almendarez. Okay, Kareem Weaver.
Hello. I was asked by Cynthia Adams to come and say something quickly. On the agenda tonight, I noticed that there were 95 comments written for the charter school areas expansion, over 320 comments for reparations, but no written comments pre-submitted for the academic instruction report. And as a community and an institution, we have ADHD. We struggle to focus. As Pastor Steve Nation said, you finish where you focus. We need to pick a reading curriculum with significant evidence of student achievement results that can pass a rigorous level of scrutiny and verification and be about the business then of winning hearts and minds. You have to lead. Lastly, the most persistent trauma being faced by our students is not being able to read and access information in the information age. We look forward to your response to the NAACP's administrative petition. You finish where you focus.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. That concludes our public comment because we've reached time for the meeting. So without, unless there's any further items, we will adjourn.
Thank you, Vice President Davis.